Hi everyone. One of the stories that I've been keeping tabs on quite a bit over the last year has been the Russiagate story, the story that Trump is Putin's puppet and he was installed as US president by Vladimir Putin because an internet troll farm in Russia paid Facebook $100,000 for some ads, and that's what it was preposterous. Obviously, we all knew it was nuts. Anybody with a brain could tell you it was nuts, and the Mueller report came out and vindicated us all. And the media were wrong all along, and they were pushing a fact-free conspiracy for 3 years. Well, it was all about, obviously, the election meddling. The BBC can't stop talking about it. I mean, they just keep blaming Russia for meddling in elections. This is from December last year. This is just a few months ago. Russia meddled in all big social media around the US election, they have concluded. Politico magazine at the time really ramped it up. Putin's attack on the US is our Pearl Harbor, they said. Really ramping up, and we've landed into a Cold War because of it, because of this nonsense. This was what it was all over. This is the internet troll farm in Russia that apparently spent $100,000 on Facebook ads and made some memes like this. People would elect Trump over her. Bernie is up 15% over Trump, polling higher than her, so let's not pretend, question mark. I don't know whether that's a question or a statement or whatever, but they were right. Yeah, they were right. Retweets 311. So yeah, that was a really popular one. That was. And there's the LGBTQ Bernie. That was a big hit for one of these Russian troll farms. You can see there 40 readers, 2 comments, 3 shares. Wow. Yeah, big deal. There's some of the other ones as well. There's one of them. Press like to help Jesus win, with Jesus arm wrestling with Satan. This is what they said swung the 2016 election in favour of Trump over Hillary Clinton. This is what they said. I know, it's preposterous. This is what I said around about the time, or rather not long, it was about a year later when I wrote this on Medium, because Facebook said in their article, dated open October the 2nd, what they said in it proves the whole narrative was false. Quote, 44% of total ad impressions, which is the number of times ads were displayed, were before the US election on November the 8th, 2016. 56% were after the election. So over half of those $100,000, which they say swung an election with billions and billions of dollars worth of advertising spent between Trump and Clinton. That's without the free stuff on CNN and MSNBC showing Trump's empty podium, etc. But they're saying $100,000 worth of ads, they said, swung it, of which 56% were after the election. So that's only $44,000 of ads. And then if you look, half of those ads were actually in deep red states, which Trump would have won anyway. They were always going to vote Republican. And then you look, hold on a minute, the ads weren't all Hillary. They weren't all Trump. And some of them were pro-Bernie. Some of them were pro-Trump. Some of them were pro-Hillary. For somebody like me who's got an internet marketing background, I took one look at it and went, yeah, that's not a troll farm acting on behalf of the Russian government. Yeah, that's an internet marketing campaign. That's what it is people trying to sell money, trying to make money by getting clicks on their page or whatever and selling it on. It's commonplace in the internet marketing. I wrote about it at the time in my book, Russiagate. This is the latest. The media went nuts over this Russia nonsense for 3 years. $4,800 they spent on Google ads and $100,000 on Facebook ads, of which 56% was beyond the election. Obviously, so unless the people who saw that had a time machine, wouldn't have made any difference. This is from Electronic Intifada. Sorry, I've cut it off at the top. Facebook bans major fake news operation run from Israel. This is yesterday. Facebook has uncovered a major Israeli campaign to influence politics and elections in countries around the world. This is going to be huge news, isn't it? In the BBC and the Washington Post and the New York Times. They're going to be crowing about this forever, aren't they? Of course they're not. The social media giant announced on Thursday that it had removed 265 Facebook and Instagram accounts with a combined following of 2.8 million users for engaging in what they call, quote, coordinated, inauthentic behaviour. This activity originated in Israel and focused on Nigeria, Senegal, Togo, Angola, Niger and Tunisia. Is it Niger or Niger? Or does it matter? I don't know. You tell me in the comments. Along with some activity in Latin America and Southeast Asia. Latin America, Venezuela, Brazil, any chance? Those operating the network falsely, quote, represented themselves as locals, including local news organisations, and published allegedly leaked information about politicians. Seeing a pattern? As well as about elections in various countries, candidate views, and criticism of political opponents. Facebook said that the, quote, individual behind this network attempted to conceal their identities, but the company's investigation links some back to, quote, an Israeli commercial entity called the Archimedes Group. Archimedes Group. And it says Venezuela connection. They've had their fingers in Venezuela by the look of it. The Archimedes Group is a Tel Aviv-based consultancy that boasts on its website of, quote, winning campaigns worldwide, but reveals little other information about itself. Interestingly, one of the visuals on its website appears to show a demonstration in Venezuela, suggesting that a covert Israeli role in the US-led effort to overthrow the government of President Nicolas Maduro. The Times of Israel identifies the CEO of the Archimedes Group as Elinadav Heyman, citing Swiss consultancy negotiations.ch, which listed him as a consultant, and they have took that down now. We've removed his biography from its website. It says here, a biography posted to the company's website describes him as a former director of the Brussels-based European Friends of Israel lobbying group, a former political advisor in Israel's Parliament, and an ex-intelligence agent for Israeli Air Force. So this is somebody with deep ties to not just the Israeli government, but other governments and other representatives in the European Union. And also, you'll find out in a minute, he was also advisor to some conservative MPs in the EU, in the European Union as well. Heyman is making efforts to cover his tracks now and trying to backtrack on them. He's one of the key pro-Israel lobbyists in Brussels earlier this decade. The organisation he headed, European Friends of Israel, was a cross-party alliance for politicians hostile to Palestinian rights. What a surprise this is. Apparently inactive at the moment, European Friends of Israel was modelled on similar groups operating in Washington. Heyman has also worked as a foreign policy advisor to Britain's Conservative Party representatives in the European Parliament. These are who they're getting their advice from. People in massive organisations to rig elections around the world and influence elections around the world and create fake news, remember. The BBC should be all over this in their fight against fake news, shouldn't they? I'll come to it in a minute. According to Facebook, the Israeli influence campaign spent more than $800,000 on fake ads since 2012, 8 times more than what a Russian troll farm is said to have spent on social media ads, mostly after the 2016 US election. Well said. An insignificant intervention that US politicians and pundits who supported Hillary Clinton hyped as equivalent to the attack on Pearl Harbor. Alan Matto jumped on board, as he does, the buzzsaw, as Jamal Thomas calls him. This one Israeli firm spent $800,000 on Facebook ads for its influence campaign, compared to the Russian firm IRA's $100,000. So this Israeli campaign amounts to 8 Pearl Harbors, he said sarcastically. Yet it is certain that the latest evidence of subterfuge originating from Israel will attract a fraction of the attention of the fruitless search for supposed Russian interference and collusion that has obsessed US media and political elites for the last 3 years, rather. Of course. And what we said all along, what we said in independent media, what Alan Mattei said, what Max Blumenthal said, what Jimmy Dore said, what Caitlin Johnson said, what anybody with a brain and some critical thinking and an objective mind said was, if you want to look at meddling in the 2016 election, don't look at Russia. Look at Israel. Don't take my word for it. This is what Noam Chomsky said on Democracy Now!
So take, say, the huge issue of interference in our pristine elections. Did the Russians interfere in our elections? An issue of overwhelming concern in the media. I mean, in most of the world, that's almost a joke. First of all, if you're interested in foreign interference in our elections, whatever the Russians may have done, barely counts weighs in the balance as compared with what another state does openly, brazenly, and with enormous support. Israeli intervention in U.S. elections vastly overwhelms anything the Russians may have done.
And that's the truth of it. And that's the truth. Israel, their influence and their meddling in elections, it vastly overwhelms anything that you would have gotten from Russia. And that's the truth. So it's interesting to see how the BBC, I'm going back to the BBC just because I hate them, just because they jack £154.50 off every single household in this country and throw you in prison if you don't pay it. That's why I hate them. But the legacy media is the same, the Guardian's the same, Independent's the same, New York Times, Washington Post, they're all the same. Because they won't make a big deal about this. I mean, you look, this is the BBC. This is from the 8th of April. This is just last month. They're still going on about Russian meddling in elections. Did Russia meddle in Madagascar's election, they ask. So it's interesting to see the article they have written on this massive Israeli scheme around the world to meddle in elections around the world, which dwarfs Russia's attempted meddling in America's elections that they made a massive deal out of for 3 years. Their article in the BBC doesn't even mention Israel in the title. That honestly, it's a joke, that article is. I think it's about 150 words. It's literally, it might as well just be a news ticker. This is why they're not to be trusted, and this is why, if anybody's still paying their BBC TV license, why? Just why? They are lying and they are propagandizing you at every turn. I love this story because it really does highlight just how hypocritical the media is and just how the BBC is there just to propagandize you, and they are never, ever, ever going to tell you the truth about what the Israeli government and the right-wing Israeli Likud party are doing around the world, and especially in Palestine. I will though, and so will independent media. That's why you need to support us. Thanks very much for your support. Please subscribe, and please click the bell below if you want a notification of when I drop further videos. And please click through to my website as well. Find out ways to support me. I can't do this without your support. Every dollar helps. You can support me for as little as $1 a month, and I really do appreciate it. Thanks very much for your support. Until next time, peace and take care.